The Lions might have traded away Matt Stafford, but they did get a lot in return, including Jared Goff from the Rams. So now they're hoping Goff, some free agency moves, some draft picks, and yes, maybe even a new rookie quarterback can help them improve. By the way, odds to win the Super Bowl, they're down at the very, very, very bottom, along with the Texans. Lions have not been to the postseason since 2016. Haven't made it out of the wild card round since 1991. So there are the details of the Goff-Stafford trade there. The Lions get Jared Goff, a 2021 third-round pick, and 2 first-round picks in the future there in 2022 and 23. The Rams, in return, receive Matt Stafford. Let's welcome in former NFL quarterback and a guy who's very hot on the golf course right now. He was telling us, Danny Kanell, and our draft expert who deserves a vacation, Ryan Wilson. All right, guys, let's talk about the trade involving the Lions. Stafford to the Rams in return, getting Jared Goff, 2 future first-round picks, a third rounder this year. Let's start with you, Ryan. Was this a good move for the Lions?
No, it's not. You had Matthew Stafford and you got rid of him, and you downgraded to Jared Goff. No disrespect to Jared Goff, but his new teammate Michael Brockers was calling him out when Michael Brockers was still in the Rams, so he didn't know he was going to trade to the Lions. Had to make that apology. Here's what I always come back to, Amanda, with Jared Goff, who has had his ups and downs. Yes, he went to the Super Bowl with the Rams a few years ago, but he struggled that January, February playoff run when the Rams lost to the Patriots. Here's where I come down on this. So look, if you can't have success in Sean McVay's system, sustained success, and Sean McVay is one of the 3 best play callers in the NFL, along with Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan, what chance do you have in Detroit that has been dysfunctional for, 2 decades now? They have a new coach in Dan Campbell he's a fun soundbite, but we don't know if he can coach at the NFL level. They have a new GM in Brad Holmes, who does come from L.A. with the Rams, very highly regarded, so maybe he can turn things around right away. I just don't think Jared Goff is the answer in the long term. Maybe he's the stopgap for now, but you're downgrading from Matthew Stafford. There's no other way to look at it for me.
No, you're 100% spot on, Ryan. I look at what the Lions are doing with this move, and it feels... Remember when the Sixers were the worst team in the NFL and they were accumulating draft picks and you were talking about the process and Sam Hinkie's doing this crazy thing? I mean, I don't believe an NFL team would ever tank, but man, this feels like tanking. Their oldest tenured player on the offensive side of the ball is 27 years old. I just don't think this is going to be a very good team. I think Jared Goff, I think this was more made for the draft picks because I don't think Jared Goff is the long-term answer, especially when you look at the lack of talent around him. Unfortunately, I don't think this is going to go great for Jared Goff. I think he'll get a year to start. I think they possibly could take the quarterback of the future, but still have him sit on the bench while Jared Goff is the sacrificial lamb and takes the pounding. I just don't know what this Lions team is thinking other than we're building for the future. And that's the message they've been telling. Dan Campbell's been saying, hey, we're going to win now. We're going to play with this chip on our shoulder and we're, biting at your heels and all that crazy stuff. I just don't think this team is going to be very good this year. But the good news is you'll probably get another good pick next year, so you can utilize some of those draft picks and start building. I just don't think this turnaround is going to happen anytime soon.
Danny already throwing out the T word there for the Lions, tanking. Danny, let's talk about the Lions in free agency. We'll start with you here. So obviously Matt Stafford is gone, also is Kenny Golladay. They did re-sign Romeo Okwara. They also signed Jamal Williams, Brashad Perryman. What would you make of their free agency?
Well, I thought the one great thing was bringing back Romeo Okwara, as you mentioned. I thought that's a young, impactful player, really had a breakout season, come into his own. But you mentioned Kenny Golladay, gone. Marvin Jones Jr., gone. Like, where are they upgrading anywhere? They didn't upgrade a quarterback, because I'm with Ryan. I think Matthew Stafford was better. They just lost, one of the highest sought-after receivers in Kenny Golladay. Marvin Jones Jr. was, a nice piece in free agency market. So I just look at this team and I don't see much talent there. So again, they're probably saving money and they're going to spend it sometime down the road. But right now, it's not happening. So I look at this free agency period and I think it's kind of a wasted free agency. I just don't see any pieces that really blow you away, except for the Romeo Okwara, which I love, and good for them for being able to convince him to stick around through this process.
Yeah, Danny's right. Another way to think about this is consider all the additions they've had and all the departures they've had other than Matthew Stafford. Let's say Matthew Stafford stays in Detroit. Everything else stays the same in terms of the new free agents and the guys who have left. This team is not better than it was a year ago. So taking off Matthew Stafford and replacing him with Jared Goff makes them even worse. Now, I understand it's a process. Danny's talked about maybe they're building for the future, but they've been building for the future forever. Now it's a new coach, a new GM, and maybe this is the time to get it right. But I applaud the moves they've made in terms of filling out the roster. Those are some good players, but not a difference maker that's going to come in and be able to overcome sort of the institutional failures that the Lions have had historically, especially now that Matthew Stafford is going to be in Los Angeles.
All right, so the Lions have 6 picks in this year's draft. Let's talk about some of the biggest needs heading into the draft. Ryan, you're our draft guy. We'll start with you.
So they have the 7th pick, and, common sense would suggest that maybe they're going to look at a quarterback there, but we don't know. I think the first need, assuming they stay put with Jared Goff, is wide receiver. We've talked about Marvin Jones gone, Kenny Golladay gone. You have to have wide receivers to throw the ball to if you're Jared Goff. He had so many weapons in Los Angeles. He had so many people to throw the ball to with Sean McVay scheming that up. We'll see how that changes in Detroit, but if you're going to look for a position of need, I think it's wide receiver. Quarterback would also be in the mix for me, as well as linebacker and offensive line later on. But at the top of the list for me is offense, starting with, of course, wide receiver, and then quarterback. If you're going to think about taking one there at 7, should one be on the board for you?
I think the Detroit Lions are one of the most fascinating positions where they're drafting. If they stay at 7, which I think they ideally might want to move back, they don't have that many picks. If they're building for the future, they'd probably like more players to fill out that roster. But if they stay at 7, I think it's really intriguing. I think, yes, if the quarterback that they like is there, like if somehow Justin Fields dropped and the 49ers go with Mac Jones or something crazy happens, then I would say snatch up Justin Fields if he's there. If he's not, I think offensive. I think I skipped ahead too. I'm sorry. I did this the other day, Amanda. I'm sorry. So I'm looking at team needs. Wide receiver, quarterback, I think is something they could address. Linebacker, you see a lot of them across the board. Offensive tackle. Again, this is a position, a team that has needs all over the map. So it's kind of pick your poison, but I do think it'll come down to who's available when they select and where do they prioritize positionally.
Danny, Jack said you get an A- because you caught yourself there. You caught it. You did well. You're just so excited about the draft. Who isn't? Okay, so Danny, we'll start with you then. Let's talk about names. It is really interesting what they do at 7. Now, Ryan's latest mock has them taking Justin Fields. He does follow them. Pete has them taking Devonta Smith, a wide receiver, something you both said they need. Danny, what are the names that you're looking at 7, or would you trade out?
I would trade out if I could, but let's just assume for this segment that they don't. I don't think Justin Fields is going to be available. If he is, like I said, I would snatch him up. I feel like he's going to go to the 49ers, but again, nothing would surprise me this time of year. Penei Sewell, I think he's one of the surest things of this draft. If he's available at 7, which he might be, I would say jump in there and draft him. He's extremely young. I think he's only 20, 21 years old. He could be a stable presence. Unfortunately, it might be like a Joe Thomas situation, who was incredible for the Cleveland Browns. Unfortunately, was on bad teams for a lot of the time. But I think he could really anchor that offensive line for quite a while. Then you look at Jamar Chase. If he's available, again, I don't know if he drops to 7, but if he is, I think you'd be crazy to pass over him, especially considering what we were just talking about. They don't have that receiving threat that really scares you, and Jamar Chase could be a generational type receiver, or Devonta Smith, who just put down one of the most impressive seasons in the history of college football for Alabama and won the Heisman Trophy. So I think that's one of the reasons the Detroit Lions at 7 is one of the most intriguing storylines, because I see so many different potential options, so many different directions that they could go. It's just a matter of what direction they choose to do so and what positions they prioritize.
I think the point Danny is making is that the Lions are not great, so they have a ton of needs. So anyone you take will help that team. And also, there are going to be a lot of guys to choose from at that 7th spot there, should they stay put there. You mentioned, Amanda, that I said I like Justin Fields there. I'm going to go wide receiver first because I think Danny might be onto something. It would be interesting to see Justin Fields if he falls there, but let's assume for a moment that he's gone and Jamar Chase is gone and Kyle Pitts is gone. I think Jalen Waddle is the next sort of home run hitter you would target if you were, in fact, targeting wide receivers. He has a little Tyreek Hill in this game. I'm not saying he is Tyreek Hill, but he is so so explosive. And look, he played in the championship game on a bad leg, and he was still the fastest player on the field. He's a 4-down player. He can return kicks and punts, and if he gets the ball, doesn't matter, short, intermediate, deep routes, he's going the distance. And I think that would take some of the pressure off of what Jared Goff is going to be asked to do there. Now let's assume that a quarterback is there at 7. And I think there's some math you could do where Justin Fields does end up being there at 7. Man, look, if you're the Lions, don't overcomplicate it. Take Justin Fields. The issue then becomes, and this is a conversation we have all the time, Amanda, is that, okay, these quarterbacks have to land in the right spot. And Detroit probably ain't the right spot for a franchise quarterback, but you can make it that way if you're Brad Holmes, the new GM. So that's what you have to do. You have to build around Justin Fields in a way that you weren't able to consistently do with Matthew Stafford, who did get to go to the playoffs. But I think Justin Fields could be special. But I'm also with Danny that if he's there at 7, something's gone wrong because he's too good a talent to be hanging around on the board after pick 4 or 5, I think.
Ryan, out of curiosity, we've done a lot of these. Are you most down on the Lions ahead for the next season? Is there another team you're just like, this is not going to be good?
Yeah, like I would say the Bengals, just to take a shot at our buddy John Breach, but they have Joe Burrow coming back. They're probably going to draft an offensive lineman, so they're going in the right direction. I don't know what to make of the Lions. Like, I feel bad for Jared Goff. I don't want to talk bad about the man. He did some good things in Los Angeles, but this is a huge ask for anyone. Just ask Matthew Stafford to come to Detroit with very few players around him after losing a bunch of guys in free agency and expecting to be competitive in a division with Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins, who we've talked about, and even, hilariously, Andy Dalton. Like, I like Andy Dalton better than Jared Goff right now.
All right, let's put on our positivity hats. Let's look to day 2 of the draft. So they got 41, 72, 101. That's the one coming from the Rams. Brian, who do you have them taking in day 2, or some names you like?
Yeah, so I have them focusing on linebacker and offensive tackle. I'll start at linebacker. They have Jalavani Tavai as their linebacker now. They need depth there, so I have them going with Chaz Surratt out of UNC. Former quarterback, by the way, who made the move to linebacker. His brother, Say Surratt, played wide receiver at Wake Forest, opted out this year. He'll get drafted as well. But Surratt is a fantastic athlete, still learning the game, and he's only going to get better. But he's sort of this modern-day off-ball linebacker we're accustomed to seeing in recent years, who can fly all over the field, come downhill and run support, and as well as coverage in terms of pass support. And Brady Christensen, I'll mention, the offensive tackle at BYU. He may end up kicking inside, but he was the left tackle for our guy Zach Wilson for the last few years, did it at a really high level, and I know NFL teams like him a lot as a day 2 selection.
I just want to say in response to, I want to let Amanda know this too, and Ryan, I am really going to miss Ryan's mock drafts. Like, there's nothing I look forward to more than like getting to wake up and see a new mock draft. Like, I'm going to miss that. I cannot wait till next year already. But until then, we'll have to get to this day. So at 41, I don't know if Asante Samuel is going to be still there on the board. If he is, you talk about positional needs. I think they could use help in the secondary. That's why I had Tyson Campbell as an option there as well. Tyson Campbell played in the SEC out of Plantation, right down the road from us in Fort Lauderdale at American Heritage. 6'1", 190. He could be a player who is available, could bolster them up. And then if they miss out on a wide receiver and you want to take a shot a little bit lower, I think Dwami Brown is one of the more underrated wide receivers of this draft class, who somebody is going to get a steal in out of North Carolina. He's had a really productive career playing with Sam Howell as a talented quarterback. I think he could be somebody that could take on day 2 that could really step in right away and catch a lot of people by surprise.
Ryan, I know this last one was 35. How many more are you doing? Do you have 1 or 2 more?
Funny story, Amanda. I finished my 3-round mock draft that comes out Monday about 2 hours ago, and then the Ravens thought they would make a trade, so I got to go back and do that. Then I'll do 1 more on Thursday morning. And Danny, over the summer, I'll email you every Monday my mock drafts for the 2022 season. You get a head start on those.
Yeah.
Love it.
There you go. Yeah, you deserve, like I said, beginning of this, you deserve a vacation, Ryan Wilson. He made 34, so he's already surpassed that. All right, taking a look at the Lions' odds. Yes, Ryan Wilson and both Danny very down on them. Their odds are not good. So they are plus 2,800 to win the NFC North. I just want to tell you how much of a drop-off that is. Packers minus 250, Vikings plus 350, Bears plus 600, and then the Lions at plus 2,800. And they are tied at the very, very bottom of all teams with the Texans, 151 odds to win the Super Bowl. All right, all things NFL. Our good friend Ryan Wilson is on there along with John Breach, Will Brinson, leading up to the draft and just NFL season in general. This is everything you need to know on the Pick Six podcast. Make sure to download and follow.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.